Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. CNN just lost a major defamation lawsuit. So far, they've lost $5 million in a jury award, but they're going to get a lot more. It's possible it could be as much as $10 million or even more than that. What they should do is stick to just trying to be responsible journalists, not mess around and attack people to protect their political friends. Coming from the Washington Post, CNN found liable for defaming security contractor in Afghanistan story. A Florida jury of 6 awarded security contractor Zachary Young $5 million in damages so far. The jury will also award punitive damages to Young, typically a much larger amount. A Florida jury on Friday determined that CNN defamed security contractor Zachary Young, who argued that his reputation and business were destroyed after he was featured in a November 2021 segment on the network about the high cost of evacuating Afghans from the country after the Taliban took power. After 8.5 hours of deliberations over 2 days, the jury awarded Young $5 million for lost business opportunities as well as pain and suffering. The jury also elected to award Young punitive damages, typically a much larger amount that is intended to punish CNN and to put other media companies on notice. It ain't free to be fake news anymore. It's going to cost millions and millions of dollars, and who knows how bad it's going to get. Whatever they've done in the past that they can be sued for, that's still going to happen. If they straighten themselves out going forward, they won't get sued again. The amount he'll actually get awarded in punitive damages will be determined after additional testimony is presented about CNN's financial value. In finding CNN guilty of per se defamation, the jurors concluded that the network's report was materially false, was done with at least negligence, and caused Young actual damages. Joseph Delick, one of Young's attorneys, thanked the jury. Quote, "I know Young feels heard in a way that he hasn't felt for over 3 years since this segment was played," he said. "I can't tell you how much that means to both Young and to our team." Delick appealed to the jury to award a large sum in punitive damages. Quote, "This is not a slap on the wrist type of situation," he said. Throughout the 2-week trial in Panama City, jurors heard from a parade of CNN reporters, producers, and executives who sought to explain the reporting process that led to this segment, which described Young's work coordinating paid evacuations of Afghans and the high prices he quoted to extricate people who feared for their lives. CNN was trying to characterize the situation as if the security contractor was trying to profiteer off of people suffering under Afghan rule. That's not what the guy was doing. Young testified last week that there was a very immediate and devastating impact on his life after the network aired the story. His lawyers argued to the jury that CNN accused him of criminal activity because of an on-screen graphic that referred to black markets while Young's face and messages appeared on screen, even though the term was not used in the story itself. Well, by presenting that black markets graphic and associating it with telling the story, yes, it was used in the story itself. Just because you didn't say the words, showing the graphic is enough. We're assuming that people watching CNN, for the most part, still can read. Various CNN employees testified that they viewed the term to mean unregulated markets. The primary reporter on the story, CNN Chief National Correspondent Alexander Marquardt, testified on Monday that he had no intent to harm Young and did not produce a hit piece. All along, CNN employees told the jury that they'd exercise care in producing, editing, and publishing the story, which was approved by the network's multi-tiered internal review process. Throughout the trial, CNN's employees and witnesses faced tough questioning from jurors who submitted often critical queries to be asked by the judge that indicated some disapproval of the network's reporting methods. Quote, "Do you feel that Americans are obligated to speak to CNN?" one juror asked reporter Katie Bo-Lillis after she finished her testimony on Wednesday afternoon. Quote, "Do people have a right to not be named in a news story?" asked another. Because at any point, if CNN decides that they're going to target somebody, they are still big enough that they can ruin somebody's life, reputation, career, you name it. And in this case, apparently because of how it affected the people that they wanted to protect, the existing administration, they felt that this security contractor made the Biden administration look bad, so they put him in a position where his life was ruined. From the beginning, legal observers speculated that the jury pool might be unfavorable to CNN. About 73% of Bay County, where the trial was held, voted in the November presidential election for Donald Trump, who has demonized CNN as fake news. I wonder why that is. David Logan, professor emeritus at Roger Williams School of Law in Rhode Island, told the Washington Post before the trial that the jury's award to Young could be greatly reduced in the likely event of an appeal. Quote, the chances of a full jury trial verdict being upheld on appeal is very small. CNN knows that, Logan said. The difference between what juries award and what actually gets paid is dramatically different. Defamation lawsuits filed against media companies rarely go to trial, often being settled out of court or dismissed in early stages, making the Young case unusual. Still, the case received muted media attention. The trial has been covered most diligently by conservative media outlets that have publicized embarrassing internal communications among CNN employees. Well, if what they were doing was appropriate, that communication wouldn't be embarrassing. All along, Young's attorneys attempted to make the case a referendum on corporate media companies like CNN, telling jurors they have an opportunity to send a message about the fake news. In a case filed by a private citizen in a state that has its own standards for punitive damages, it's not clear whether the verdict could have legal implications for the media industry writ large. But if the verdict is appealed and the case is taken on by a higher court, there is a chance that the actual malice standard that creates a high bar for lawsuits against media defendants could be reviewed, something that could have huge implications for the industry. Quote, no one wants the Supreme Court to get an actual malice case, Logan said. Media companies and the employees that work for them are concerned that the wrong case getting in front of this court could lead to a far more significantly bad outcome than the jury verdict could. Because if CNN appeals this verdict and says, hey, give it another look, why don't you see what happened here? It's really possible that the appeals court, that the Supreme Court, could put CNN and the rest of the fake media guys out there trying to push news, but really they're pushing opinion and their influence to try to influence the public and to try to damage their political opponents. When they're out there pushing that stuff, right now they're doing it with limited liability. It's starting to catch up to them. But it could be much worse if it gets to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court, especially based on information, discovery, emails, testimony, facts that show these guys have been using their First Amendment rights in a deceptive way to attack political opponents, not letting the public know that what they were doing was really opinion. It was propaganda. It wasn't facts. It wasn't news. If they get caught in that situation, this conservative Supreme Court could destroy these media companies, could put them in a position that they'd either have to tell the truth or get the hell out of the business. The high dollar verdict could also incentivize more lawsuits against media companies, particularly in a climate of hostility towards the media. Many other media companies, including Fox News, NBC, and CBS News, are facing lawsuits that seek to extract millions in compensation at a time when the industry is facing large declines in advertising and subscription revenues. Not a great time to get yourself in trouble and get defamation lawsuits. And from National Review, CNN loses defamation case ordered to pay $5 million to Navy veteran. Young successfully argued CNN destroyed his reputation in business by effectively portraying him as an illegal profiteer who exploited desperate Afghans when in fact his business targeted sponsors who could afford to pay on behalf of the fleeing Afghans rather than individuals who were fleeing themselves. CNN had already acknowledged it made a mistake in the use of its phrase black market during a November 11, 2021 segment on The Lead with Jake Tapper, but unsuccessfully argued its reporting on Young was accurate nonetheless. CNN Chief National Security Correspondent Alex Marquardt testified earlier this week that he did not produce a hit piece on the Navy veteran. In the segment, though, Marquardt said, quote, desperate Afghans are being exploited and need to pay exorbitant, often impossible amounts to leave the country. The story mentions only Young's company, explaining his business was asking $75,000 to transport a vehicle of passengers to Pakistan, or $14,500 per person to end up in the United Arab Emirates. Quote, prices went beyond the reach of most Afghans, according to Marquardt, before allegedly attempting to call Young. Quote, in a text message, he told CNN that Afghans trying to leave are expected to have sponsors to pay for them. Marquardt said, adding that Young, quote, repeatedly declined to break down the cost or say if he's making money. But the Panama City jury ultimately found CNN guilty of per se defamation, ruling that the network's report was materially false and was carried out with negligence and caused Young actual damages. Quote, I know Young feels hurt in a way he hasn't felt for over 3 years since the segment was played. I can't tell you how much this means to both Young and to our team, said Young's attorney Joseph Delick after the ruling. The fake news business is getting more difficult as time goes on. Trump has also had success with ABC, and there's a report going around that CBS is looking to settle with Trump over his 60 Minutes lawsuit, which is all pointing in the right direction. I would rather see us just have legitimate First Amendment protected news organizations that were focused just on the news. And if they decided they wanted to give opinion, that would clearly state, this is what we're saying and this is why we're saying it. If this continues, if these media groups continue to lose these lawsuits, one of them will appeal to a higher court. And when the higher court gets a hold of this, they will have to explain that if you're doing something that is essentially advertising and promoting a position, you need to mark that as an advertisement or advocacy in some way. You can't just present yourself as straight telling the news and not have accountability. That's what the defamation lawsuits are all about. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.